What's up, YouTubers? I know it feels like almost an age since I last posted on here for you guys. Yeah, I kind of want to post a bit of an update to let you guys know what I've been up to the past few years. The reasons why maybe I haven't been posting on the likes of here and Facebook and Instagram. I know at some point I was actually getting messages of people just to check if I was actually still alive. I apologise, yes I am. I didn't do anything stupid. I know some of you guys already are probably thinking, I don't understand a word this guy is saying, what the hell is that accent? I am a Scouser, I'm from Liverpool, so I do pronounce things maybe a little bit funny.
That's boss.
Some of you guys are like, just shut up and play, and I only want to watch you play a bit of guitar. Or not, maybe. So where the hell have I been for the past 3 years? Why did I stop posting? Well, it's for a few reasons actually. There's a few things I want to talk about. Gigs I've been playing, you know, a bit about the music that I'm working on, but also about mental health. That's kind of the main reason why I was out for so long. So yeah, I mean, let's dive in. I'm going to talk a little bit about mental health first. So we go back to the last time I was kind of regularly posting on here, probably around 2015. Now, in about September, October of 2015, I just recently turned 22 and realised that I was actually in quite a toxic relationship. So I kind of decided that it was time to end it and move on. Everything seemed pretty smooth. Boy, was I wrong. I don't want to go into too much detail about this, but essentially I came home to find my studio trashed and 2 of my cameras gone, alongside a lot of other kind of personal stuff that disappeared. Actually made its way to a different country. Anyway, I moved on. I'd split up with this lady and I thought, freedom, finally. Freedom! 2 weeks later, I'm walking through Liverpool city centre on the way to a little covers gig, and boom, basically it hit me. At first, it just felt like I was extremely dizzy and that I was gonna fall over was the initial feeling, I guess. I'll never forget holding on to these railings and feeling like, oh shit, what is actually happening? Like, am I gonna die here? I remember just feeling this numbness in my arms and everything seemed to be spinning around me. My chest was getting really tight. I was looking at my hands and I was like, I don't recognise them. I felt like there was no feeling. They didn't look like my own hands. I know that sounds so weird, but that's the best way I can describe it. I ended up actually calling a taxi to come and pick me up, even though it was like a 3-minute drive. I just felt like I couldn't make it. So I get to the gig and I think everything's gonna be okay. It was a little trio setup. It was just me, a singer and a cajon player. And about 15 minutes into the first 45-minute set, I remember all these feelings just coming straight back. And I turned around to the singer and I said, listen, I think we need to take a break. I really don't feel good. I feel like I'm gonna fall out of my seat here. So he's not too happy and neither's the cajon player, because really, you know, you've only been playing for 15 minutes to take a break. It's not really cool, especially when you've got another set after that. So I went outside, tried to compose myself, and still this feeling is just driving me absolutely crazy. Like, I honestly thought someone needs to ring an ambulance here if this gets any worse. Anyway, I somehow managed to get through the end of the gig. I thought, oh, relief, this is over. Little did I know this would affect me almost daily for the next 2 years plus. So that week, I basically got a doctor's appointment, went and did a load of blood tests, did an ECG, all the kind of common ground stuff that needed to be looked at to check if there was any kind of major health issues or underlying health issues. When everything came back, they basically told me that I was perfectly healthy, which to me, I'm sat there in the doctor's room and I'm feeling all these feelings again, and I'm thinking, how can that be real? Like, there's pains in my chest, there's shooting pains all over the place. I don't feel the same as I did 2 weeks ago when this first happened to me. They basically told me that they thought that I was highly depressed or anxious, and that these physical symptoms that I was experiencing were essentially panic attacks. I kept on asking myself, like, how? Like, in all honesty, I didn't believe panic attacks were real. That's how ignorant I was. And I'd always considered that I could think quite clearly for myself and rationally about these kind of thoughts, and Yeah, that was not the answer I was expecting. They basically gave me 3 options. They told me I could either take antidepressants, I could take beta blockers, or I could ring this mental health organisation called Talk Liverpool, and maybe they'd be able to help me out with some therapy. I basically opted for the latter. I didn't want to take anything. That's just me. I know it works for some people, but I just thought maybe it's best to talk about this issue if this is the case, you know. So I called through to these guys and they basically did a mental health kind of assessment over the phone. The lady on the phone basically told me that I'd actually scored really highly when it came to the anxiety, and that it was kind of critical that I'd be seen to ASAP. Cue a 6-month waiting list.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
I kept on thinking to myself, how am I going to survive feeling like this every day for the next 6 months? If I left the house, instantly these feelings of panic and dread just seemed to overcome me. Honestly, every day I felt like I could just drop dead at any second. Being a musician and gigging most nights of the week, I'm sure you can see how this could potentially be a little bit of an issue. I mean, I literally felt horrendous doing anything other than moping about the house, wishing that this feeling would go away. You know, I felt like I couldn't even talk to anyone about it. I'm sure people would think that I was crazy if I told them that every time I'm outside the house I feel like I'm gonna die. It just didn't make sense to me even. I also feel that sometimes within the music industry, mental health is kind of a little bit of a taboo. Even playing guitar at home was bringing out these feelings, which was the real kind of worry for me, and that obviously led to a cycle of me feeling worse and worse. Every time I pick up the instrument, I remember looking at my hands and being like, they are not mine, like, ugh, this feels weird. I was just getting no enjoyment from playing. All of this panic feeling would come about the second I sat down to practice or play a gig. You know, at times I just feel like I needed to escape. The only thing that seemed to ease these panic symptoms if I left the house was beer. I'm sure you guys can imagine how self-medicating with alcohol could be a pretty dangerous path to go down. Anyway, I decided to pay for a few private cognitive behavioural therapy sessions, which was an absolute waste of time if I'm honest. It honestly made me feel like I wanted to give up. The 6 months passed, I somehow got through it, and Talk Liverpool gave me a call. They actually invited me in to do a face-to-face assessment to reassess the anxiety levels and whatnot. Again, they told me that my anxiety level was critical, but they could only offer group cognitive behavioural therapy sessions. When I asked why I couldn't have one-to-one, she pointed to a question on the questionnaire that simply asked, "Do you feel suicidal?" which I'd answered no to. Due to funding cuts? Yeah, thanks Theresa May. Group sessions was all they could offer me. No surprise to find out then that I was the only guy who actually signed up to do group sessions. Presumably because all the other people with mental health problems or anxiety problems must have found the idea of talking in front of 15, 20 strangers about personal problems a little bit fucking weird. So my therapist was a guy called Joe. He was such a cool guy actually. He was a massive fan of John Mayer, so instantly there was a little bit of a connection there, something that we could talk about, relate with each other about. Unlike some of the therapists which I paid for, one of which preferred to talk about the TV show Big Brother for 30 minutes. Something I have absolutely no idea about. Constantly clock watching. I'll never forget him setting a timer, and every 5 seconds he'd be looking at the clock. According to Joe, basically he thought that I had severe anxiety and symptoms of what we call depersonalization or derealization. Now, if I was to describe depersonalization to you, best way I can think of is to say it's like you're living almost in a dream. Nothing around you kind of feels real anymore. Things that you walk past on a daily basis, you look at in a different perspective, like it just seems alien to you at this point. Imagine walking past a shop that you walk past every day on the way through town, you know, and imagining that you've never seen it before. The colours are more vivid, or maybe they're more bland. I think that was how I felt. You know, I'd look at my hands and feel like I didn't recognise them. Like, are they mine? Or I just felt like I didn't have any control over them. You're like a prisoner within your own body. So Joe kind of figured out that the toxic relationship I was in, the breakup, and the nature of how messy it was, brought out deeper worries within me kind of amalgamated into the physical symptoms, which were the panic attacks. Brings me on to my next point, which is about the trap of playing function gigs or covers gigs all the time. Playing covers gigs every night was my life, essentially. I wasn't writing my own music, I wasn't practicing properly, I wasn't, working towards my goals, shall we say, all because of this panic disorder and the kind of trap lifestyle that these covers gigs can lead you to. It felt like a dead end for me. I started to hate playing guitar at home because it brought out all these horrendous kind of physical feelings as well as mental feelings. Then I started questioning myself as a musician. I think all of us as musicians suffer with like crippling self-doubt a lot of the time anyway, so this was just magnifying that feeling. It was a cycle that I needed to break. Joe referred me on to a therapist that was kind of a higher level than him or more highly qualified than him. That's when things really started to change, essentially. My new therapist, Lucy, began giving me exercises and tasks to complete that essentially changed my thought process on things, and it actually worked. I could do a whole separate video on this topic if that's something you guys are interested in, talking more in depth about my experiences and exactly how I got over it. If that's what you're after, please comment and let me know. We can talk about these kind of things. All in all though, after a few years of this being a daily thing, the panic attacks eventually subsided. I think my last kind of big panic attack or episode was about 6 months before I finished therapy, probably around February, March maybe 2018, so just last year. So why didn't I dive straight back into all of this online kind of stuff, posting videos on here, on Facebook and Instagram? Well, that's something else that I want to talk about. It's kind of the next topic, shall we say. Covers gigs. So life as a musician sometimes can be quite scary. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. And you can almost find yourself agreeing to do these things which are almost like traps, just simply for the financial security. It's so easy to just get sucked into a routine. During the time I was having all of these kind of panic attacks and mental health problems, I was gigging quite a lot. It was most nights of the week in bars or wedding gigs or corporate events and things of this nature, as well as teaching during the day. That was at home or in an environment which I knew really well, so it's kind of easier to deal with. Playing in bars every night, I think even without these kind of problems, can be quite destructive towards your playing, your physical and your mental health anyway. So obviously this kind of added to it. Like I mentioned earlier, when I was having these panic attacks and I was outside of the house, the one thing that seemed to help relieve the symptoms was beer or alcohol, which was a terrible mistake because I'd have one beer and the symptoms would kind of chill. But then if you're playing a gig, I'd have 2, 3, the list goes on. You know how it goes. People would want to party afterwards with you, so you end up out until all hours. And in that moment, you feel totally fine because these anxious thoughts or depressive thoughts totally disappear. So, you want to party on, you want to be out, you want to socialise, you want to do the things that you feel like you can't do in the day.
I'm not fucking leaving!
Then obviously, boom. Hangover hits you, there's more anxiety, there's more feelings of, what did I do, what did I say, oh God, what actually happened last night? One thing I can say is thank God I've never been interested in drugs, because then I'd be royally fucked. I've seen what drugs can do to some guys and it's not pretty, especially if they're having these kind of thoughts as well. I can't imagine how unbearable that must be. That's a totally different ballgame.
Drugs are bad, okay?
Now I must say there are many positive sides to playing covers gigs, other than of course the financial security. If you're playing with monster players, that's going to improve you as a musician. It's going to improve your time feel, the way in which you improvise, the way in which you interact with other musicians. They're kicking your ass every day, you will improve. And of course, it's in front of a live audience. It's not something that you can do a million takes of with a camera. But it could also be really a big trap. You're doing what you love, so to say, but you're working incredibly unsociable hours most of the time, on days of the week that most people are in bed. Sometimes hours before you even started the gig. You're playing music that you might not necessarily like a lot of the time. Cue Wonderwall. but it totally ruined my excitement for music and guitar in general. There were some days I literally wouldn't even want to look at the guitar. You know, I wouldn't listen to music unless I had to learn it for a gig, or I had to teach it, or, you know, I had to record or something like that. I just genuinely lost all kind of love for music. Social media was only further adding to this kind of anxiety, especially Instagram. Every time I'd open that app, I'd see wave after wave of new guitarists or new musicians that were just like next level. This kind of level of perfection that was just crazy. Whilst I find quite a lot of it inspiring now, back then it was more like, fuck, I really suck. Or, you know, where will I fit in? Or why would people want to listen to my playing? Like, there's no point. As well as thinking, why does everybody sound so perfect? Why does everything sound a little bit the same? That's a different topic. I'm looking at you guys playing that minor 9 shape. No, I'm just kidding with you. That's a whole different topic we can talk about another day. Anyway, pushing myself to practice was nigh on impossible at this time. I'd totally lost my love for music. I still see guys now whose potential has just been totally ruined by basically agreeing to do these gigs, you know, 7 nights a week. I mean, why would you want to practice to play these same songs over and over again? You know, especially if you're playing it just like the record. It's pointless. Some players I've actually seen are worse now than when they started years ago. It was only through cutting back on these types of gigs, kind of saying no to the drink, going through therapy, and being given opportunities to play original music again, that kind of got me out of this rut and helped me to rediscover my love, basically, and passion for the instrument. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still do play these types of gigs, and a lot of the time I will really enjoy them. It's just I kind of look at them in a different light now than I kind of previously did in the past, especially with all the shit that was going on. So on to the things which I have been doing in this time that were kind of positive. Actually, there were quite a lot of cool things. I still managed to teach a lot privately and via Skype. I was doing a lot of remote recording sessions and sessions for people around Liverpool too. I actually did a few demonstrations at events like Gaki Fair in Tokyo with my brother Shun Nokina, Lectique pedals. Absolutely gorgeous pedals if you've not checked them out. And of course NAMM Show in LA, which is always good fun. I did a few masterclasses or clinics or whatever you want to call them. One for Sarah in Birmingham, Guitar, which was a lot of fun. I taught masterclass at MMI, or MME as they'd say in Italy, I guess, at Syracuse, which was a gorgeous place with the coolest people. That was a lot of fun. I think one of the coolest ones though was teaching at a camp over in Barcelona alongside the likes of Tony Martinez, a good friend of mine, and Guthrie Govan, who I'm sure most of you guys know. He's one of my heroes. He's a top player. And no, just to clear things up, he's not my dad, I'm not his son, and neither is Nick Johnson, my brother, or Ola Englund for that matter. I know those get thrown about quite a few times in the comment sections, but there again, they're super lovely dudes. I love those guys to bits. Most kind of life-changing things that I did though were 2 tours, essentially. The first one was an invitation to do a European tour with Stu Ham. If you don't know him, I mean, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Frank Albale, Alan Holdsworth, all these guys. He was the bass player back in the day. And on drums we had Craig Blundell, who plays with Stephen Wilson, and Frost. I mean, he's just a monster, especially in that prog world now. He's, yeah, killing it. Such a dude. So the 14-year-old inside me was going absolutely mental when I got this opportunity. I spent literally weeks and hours working on that set list. And I remember getting into the rehearsal room for the first time and meeting Stu and Craig in the flesh. I was only 24. I was absolutely shitting myself. Here's some clips from some of those shows just now. I also got asked to play for the 80s pop band, China Crisis. I'm sure a lot of you guys on here may never have heard of them, but believe me, in the 80s they were absolutely huge in the UK. Played some pretty big festival gigs, I'm sure there'll be a picture somewhere here. One of them we even played, we were opening for REHARMONISATION, yeah, these guys. Most recently though, we did an anniversary tour for an album they did back in the 80s called Flaunt the Imperfection, which is a gorgeous album. It was produced by Walter Becker. If you don't know who that is, then I suggest you go and watch some Steely Dan stuff straight after this video. I mean, if you're a guitarist, this stuff is essential. So I got to play some cool guitar solos and guitar parts, which were actually played by Tim Rennick. You know, I mean, he played on like Space Oddity and, you know, stuff, just huge stuff back in the 80s. So now, what's the plan? Well, I want to say that I'm back here for good. Fingers crossed, nothing happens to me. I want to release more and more content for you guys, maybe give a little insight into what I'm doing musically. I'm currently working on my first solo release. I'm unsure of whether it should be an EP or an album. There's two maybe conflicted styles going on in some of these tracks. Some of it you should be hearing right the way through this video. So if you like it, give me a shout. If you don't like it, give me a shout. I'm also teaching quite a lot now again too. If you're interested in Skype lessons, please feel free to shoot me a message and we'll work something out. I'm also putting together content for a few new lesson packages. So yeah, they should be released pretty soon. I'm hoping you guys will enjoy them. Other than that though, the question is back over to you guys. What do you want to see from this channel? Original music? Is it jam tracks? Is it lessons? Is it Q&A videos? Is it just general YouTube stuff, vlogging? I don't know, please just let me know down in that comment section. If you want to see more of this stuff, I hate to be that guy to ask, but please like and subscribe and share and all that kind of stuff. Click that little bell for notifications. I'm going to be posting a lot more on here. As a little side note, I just want to say thanks to all of you guys who've been watching me and supporting and commenting over the years. You know, it's been, I think, nearly 10 years or more since I started this YouTube channel. It was a bit of fun to kind of show my mates what I was playing on guitar at the time. I can't believe it's kind of shaped me as a player through the good and the bad all these days later, you know. It really does mean the world to me. I also want to apologise if at any point you guys have sent me a message, whether it be on here or Facebook or Instagram or, you know, on my email, and I've not got back to you. I've been notoriously bad for that over the past few years. I'd like to say it was the anxiety, but I don't know what it is. I've just been terrible, and I apologise to you. So if that's the case, please send me another message on here or an email or whatever you want to do, and I'll 100% make sure I get back to you. Anyway, I guess that's all from me, and that's why I quit social media, and I guess that's why I'm back now. Hoping to see you guys soon anyway. Sayonara. See you guys soon.